At what point do you think Americans will care about national security and foreign policy more?
Well, there's been somewhat of a kind of a trivialization in Americans, especially among younger people who seem less interested in world affairs and national security affairs. I think that changed back in 2001, the 9/11 attacks, but it's been 13 years since then, and I think a lot of people, and because the media has not really focused on the threats facing the country, I think a lot of people are really unaware of what's going on. They're more interested in what Hollywood star is going to get involved in drug trafficking or drug use or those kinds of things. And so there really needs to be a much better kind of education system on the part of the media to really bring greater attention to these world threats.
So the media, when you look back at how the media reacted or covered other administrations, whether it was Nixon or Bush or Reagan, there was a counter argument. There was skepticism of their foreign policy. Explain your peers in the media and why you don't see that same reaction towards the Obama team.
Well, understanding the American media and its approach to the Obama administration, I would say that it's probably based on the fact that at its heart, the old leftist notion that there are no enemies on the left. It seems that the further to the left that an administration goes, and certainly the Obama administration is the most left-wing administration in recent history, I think that there's been a reluctance on the part of the media to really aggressively hold them accountable. I've learned through my 30 years in the news business that one of the most important jobs for the news media is to hold government accountable. And unless that's done, I don't think the press is really fulfilling its job. And they've really, in the case of the Obama administration, for a variety of reasons, they have not really held the administration accountable.
Your thoughts on Benghazi?
I view the Benghazi attack as a terrorist attack that has to be viewed in light of the presidential re-election campaign of Barack Obama. It was clear from the very beginning that his campaign was controlling U.S. foreign policy at that time. That's why they put out a false narrative that it was a spontaneous demonstration spurred on by an anti-Muslim video on the internet, when in fact it was a terrorist attack. I think it's really incumbent upon the Republicans in Congress to demand a full accounting, and we haven't had a full accounting. I think part of the problem has been that Benghazi was a CIA-dominated operation. Most of the people there were CIA personnel or CIA contractors, and thus the secrecy has been invoked to try to prevent the disclosure of what was going on. And again, it's up to the Republicans to demand, and there are ways that they could do it through legislation and other things and through a special committee, but yet they seem unwilling to really go to the mat and try to force the Obama administration to disclose the facts about Benghazi.
Your story about Obamacare in Belarus, do you want to say more about that and what's happened since you wrote that story?
Sure. One of the most important stories I had this year was recent intelligence that a Belarus company, now Belarus is a kind of a Russian-aligned country that bragged that its this technology park in Minsk was instrumental in developing the software that's now used in hospitals around the country for the Obamacare software. This was presented in an intelligence report within government, and it was a fairly alarming report, according to officials that I talked to, who said that this needs to be investigated because the potential would be that hackers, state-sponsored hackers from this pro-Russian Belarus could break into the Obamacare network, all of the hospitals, all of the healthcare providers, and steal personal data. The administration has said they would do an investigation, but obviously it came at a bad time when they were trying to encourage people to sign up for Obamacare. So they basically politicized the intelligence and claimed that the report was not valid and that they had withdrawn the report. It was a clear case of politicization, and yet again there was no outcry from Congress or from others who are saying, why is the administration allowed to use the intelligence services for political purposes?
Okay, talking about the players in the foreign policy, national security arena, who do you see as the trusted advisors for the Obama team? And on the other side, who are the most Reagan-esque voices of peace through strength on the conservative side?
Well, I think the main players within the Obama administration are the National Security Advisor, and Dennis McDonough is one of the key players there, and also Secretary of State John Kerry, who brings a very liberal outlook. I know that when Kerry was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, that his only main concerns were climate change and the Guantanamo inmates, in other words, trying to close Guantanamo Bay. I think those are the people. I think Kerry initially had his own agenda, but I think he's been reined in by the White House. The president and Valerie Jarrett, who is a close advisor, play a key role. And those are the key players within the Obama administration which set policy. And they do not allow any kind of variation. And we learned from the memoir of Robert Gates, the former defense secretary, that the White House often would contradict both the State Department and the Pentagon in setting its own agenda. Vice President Joe Biden, also another very liberal policymaker, has also weighed in, having inordinate influence within the Obama administration. As for the foreign policy on the Republican side, I see some hope in people like Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Ted Cruz. Although both of them are relatively junior, I think that they have very good political instincts, and I think that coming from kind of a Cuban-American background, have a much stronger sense of American freedom and the need for American freedom. I remember Senator Cruz gave a speech recently where his father told him after he had left Cuba, he said, "Listen, we have to make it here. There's no other place but here." And so he understands, I think, even though he's somewhat inexperienced, but I'm very hopeful that one of those two people could help lead American foreign policy back towards a more peace through strength Reagan foreign policy. Well, I think John Bolton is certainly a real leading voice on foreign policy. He would make a great Secretary of State in a Republican administration. He's very important because he's been at the top levels of U.S. government and he's seen what needs to be done. He's really a rock-solid conservative who really understands the concept of peace through strength. He would be a great Secretary of State.